Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Caitlin Elliott, and today we are going to be talking about another true crime case here, and I usually post my videos on Tuesdays and Fridays, True Crime Tuesdays, and then Crimes Through the Times. And if you enjoy those types of cases, like current cases or just vintage cases, I would highly suggest you hit that subscribe button and then hit the little bell notification next to it so you get notified every time I post a new video. So, as you are all probably aware, it is Black History Month, and for the Black History Month, I've been trying to cover as many African American cases as I possibly could. Now, whenever I first started doing the Black History Month this month, I felt bad because I wasn't aware that Black History Month was February 1st through March 1st. I thought it was March 1st through April 1st. So I had to scramble and just quickly research as many African American cases as I could find. And luckily I was able to find some pretty good ones so far. I was talking about Tupac Shakur, Emmett Till, and now today we're going to be talking about little Asha Degree. So Asha, she was born on August 15th of 1990 in Shelby, North Carolina. And Shelby isn't that big of a town. It only had about 20,000 people just recently in 2019, so there was even less back when she went missing in 2000. So Asha's parents, they got married in either the year of 1988 or 1989. It was never specified through my research of when her parents got married. It was unknown which year it was. So they actually did get married on Valentine's Day, which is super sweet and romantic, but it would also end up becoming the day their lives would change forever because it would be the day that their little daughter, Asha Degree, would go missing. So Asha, she wasn't an only child. She also had an older brother, and his name was O'Brien. And all of them lived together in North Shelby, North Carolina. And Asha and her older brother, Brian, they were said to have been extremely, extremely sheltered by their parents growing up. And this was because Aquila didn't allow them to do anything or go anywhere without family being involved. So Aquila claimed that she had these rules because she was constantly watching the news and she wanted to protect Asha and Brian because she would hear about these cases about children going missing and she didn't want them to end up in the same situation. So even though O'Brien and Asha were in elementary school and middle school respectively, that's a very critical time growing up where you want to have as many friends as you can, and it helps establish your confidence and your social skills. Well, because they weren't allowed to really talk to anyone or hang out with anyone outside the family, their social skills were below average, and they were said to have been extremely shy, especially Asha. And I'm not at all shaming Aquila for wanting to keep her children safe. I totally understand that. I'm not at all shaming anything about what she has done, having the kids grow up. So they weren't told that they weren't allowed to have a television or a computer because Aquila was worried that they would be lured by sexual predators online or by the TV and something would end up happening to them. So in the year 2000, Asha, she was 9 years old and she was in the 4th grade at her elementary school. And teachers recalled Asha at this time being a very shy girl, probably because of her lack of interaction with other people. And she was extremely polite and extremely kind, and she was constantly worried. And I'd like to think this might have been due to the fact that she was so sheltered growing up. It could cause anxiety and fear in children as well. And that's probably what may have occurred, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm just voicing my opinion. So on Friday, February 11th of 2000, it was a no-school day for the county that Asha and her brother O'Brien lived in. So they were told that they didn't have any school. And the kids were just thrilled about that, as any one of us would be. I remember being around that age, and whenever we got told that we had no school, I was just over the moon because I would get so stressed out with schoolwork and homework. So it was nice to have a little break for your mental health and everything, just to recuperate and go back. So, however, this day wasn't a holiday. I'm thinking it might have just been like one of those teachers' appreciation days. And Aquila and Harold, they still needed to work. So they wanted to make sure that there were no distractions while they were trying to work. So in order to keep them from not having any distractions, O'Brien and Asia were sent to their aunt's house. And the aunt's name is Aunt Alicia. And she would end up taking the children to their basketball practices because they both played basketball. So turns out that the children both had games that day. And after the games, the whole family, they just went home. So now 2 days later, on February 13th of 2000, they were once again dropped off at Aunt Alicia's house. So now February 13th, it was a Sunday, and the family went to a church called Ambassador Missionary Baptist Church. And after this, the family would go back to Alicia's house to have lunch. And when the family went back to Alicia's house, the children were thrilled because their grandmother named Joanne was there, and she had some Valentine's Day candy for the kids. And they were just over the moon because what kid doesn't like candy? So it said that this made Asha extremely happy. She could not believe how much candy that she had. She was just thrilled. So this, unfortunately, was the last time they would ever see Asha. So on February 14th, 2000, at 12:30 in the morning, Harold, he works overnight, and he returned home from his shift. And as soon as he does, he quickly checked on the children, and he noticed, to see if they were okay, and he noticed that they were both still asleep. So now usually when Harold comes home, he would go home and sit on the couch and watch TV, so it would help him relax. But on this day, because it was Valentine's Day, he wanted to do something special for Aquila and set up a nice, little setup with flowers and, chocolates and everything for her so she would feel loved in the morning. So it's not exactly clear what Harold had been doing at this time before going to check between setting everything up and then going to the bedrooms at 2:30 to check on the children. And it said that they were both still asleep at the time. And it's also said that I believe O'Brien and Asha, they shared a room and they also shared the same bed. So not long after Harold had checked on the kids, O'Brien, he started to feel Asha moving around a little bit, like she seemed a little restless while she was sleeping. I'm like that too sometimes. When I sleep, I get a little restless. But it said that she was kicking and moving around. It was hard for him to sleep, and the movement was enough to wake him up. And he falls back asleep after a while, but then he hears her moving around the second time. But at this time, O'Brien starts to believe that he's just hearing things, and that there's nothing going on. And so he just completely falls back to sleep. So Aquila, she wakes up the following morning, February 14th, and she wakes up at 5:45 in the morning because she was just super excited for Valentine's Day, and it was also her anniversary that day, so she wanted to do something really special, set everything up, look extra nice. And normally Aquila, she would wake up the kids at 6:30 in the morning, but because of the storm that they had in the night prior, the children were unable to take their showers, so Aquila wanted to make sure the children were freshly bathed, and she woke them up early so they have extra time to bathe. So Aquila went to wake up the children, and she noticed right away that it was only O'Brien who was sleeping in the bed, and Asha wasn't in her bed. So, at first Aquila at this time, she didn't really panic because she believed that Asha could probably be in the bathroom, or she was just downstairs in another part of the house somewhere. So she just starts searching around the house to see where Asha was, just to make sure she had a good night's sleep, getting ready for the day. And she's searching for her, and that's when she starts to panic because she cannot find Asha anywhere. So when she couldn't find her, she quickly called her husband Harold and told him what was going on and thought that maybe, Harold would know what was going on. So Harold, he quickly hung up the phone while talking to Aquila, and he started calling Aunt Alicia and Harold's mother to see if they had Asha with them, And as he's calling them, he's just asking them, and they're like, no, we don't have Asha. She was sleeping with you guys. We don't have Asha. So it's around this time that Aquila, she hears a car pull up around the house, and she goes outside, and she starts looking in both of the cars that they have, and she just looks for any sign of Asha, like maybe someone brought her back home. She was just concerned, but she wasn't anywhere in the car. So she calls her mom in absolute just hysterics and panic. She's just freaking out that her daughter is gone. So Aquila's mother said for her to hang up and call the police immediately. No ifs, ands, or buts. So within only 10 short minutes after calling the police arrive. And they had arrived with search dogs. And unfortunately, the search dogs were unable to pick up any type of scent from Asha. And this was thought to be by police that this was possibly caused by the storm they had the night prior. Remember the one that knocked out the electricity and they had to take showers in the morning. So Aquila and her husband, Harold, they start frantically asking any of the neighbors if they've seen Asha. Like, was she going to school? Like, what's going on? Did she leave already? And by 7 a.m., everyone starts waking up. Everyone around the neighborhood starts waking up, and they start noticing Aquila just walking around, like searching for her daughter and calling out for her. And they all began helping Aquila search for Asha. So by the end of the middle of the day, all the family and as many friends as they possibly could, including the neighbors, were out that day just searching for Asha. And but no one, unfortunately, could find Asha. So they're walking around looking for her, but there was no sign of Asha. No one could find her. And they looked through the house to see if maybe she was kidnapped or maybe there's something going on. But the weird thing was that everything was still locked from the inside. So there's how would she have just left? It was very confusing to them. So while searching the home, the police noticed that her backpack, the one that she had used for school, and some of her clothing were gone. They were missing. And this leads to the police to suspect that Asha was a runaway. And that she had left on her own accord. They even started believing that maybe that the running away and everything was planned out. And that she had wanted to do this. This was something that she wanted to do. However, the parents, they just adamantly refused that Asha would ever do something like that because they were just like, she shouldn't have. Why would she need to run away? She has everything that she needed here, and she was extremely sheltered. She didn't know what life was like outside the world. She's fine. There's no way she would have ran away. And it's said by her parents that not only was she extremely terrified of the dark, but she was horrified of dogs. And she would never want to go out there when it's dark, stormy, because she hates storms, and she was terrified of dogs. So the media, they quickly got a hold of Asha's story, and they started telling it right away to the local news outlets. And they were hoping that anyone could provide any information that could lead to Asha's return. And they even pleaded to the public to return her home for them. Please just bring home my daughter. So when it came to Asha's disappearance, there were actually some witnesses that called the police claiming to have seen Asha. And witnesses stated that Asha was seen either on a highway called Highway 18, which is a very familiar route that was taken by her school bus. So she knew she was comfortable with this route. She knew like where it would go and what it was. And however, it was very dark at this time, and the road when it's dark can be extremely difficult to navigate. So they were really worried at this point, like maybe she was walking around at that time. So two more witnesses, they came forward, and they claimed to have seen Asha walking on Highway 18 as well. And one of the witnesses were claiming that she was heading south through the Shelby area. She was going out of town. And what's really unusual is that she apparently was walking there around the time between 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's usually when it's still dark outside. And as I mentioned earlier, Asha, she is terrified of the dark. So there had to have been something going on that possibly has scared her more than the dark. And what's even more bizarre, like I said, that she left at 3 in the morning. It's also February, and it's freezing cold. As you can imagine, it's freezing cold because it's February. And she didn't bring a jacket. She was just wearing a little thin t-shirt and some pants, and she must have been like extremely cold because remember it was February at that point. So there was a driver that had passed through the town, and he had passed her, and he claimed that he was very concerned when he saw her because he was wondering why a child of her age, which was 9, was out walking by herself And it was in the middle of the winter, and it was 3 a.m., and she didn't have a coat on. But the number of people who witnessed her, out of all the people that witnessed her, nobody called the police and said, hey, there's a child out here walking around by herself at 3 a.m. I don't know why they didn't call. I would have called. So it's said that when the truck driver noticed her, he did a quick U-turn and he started to go back towards her, and apparently he started asking her if she was okay, and apparently this freaked out Asha, and she was just freaked, and she took off running through the woods. It's also stated that when the truck driver saw her, she was already maybe like a mile and a half from the home, and this was the last time anybody saw Asha. So on February 17th, a couple people had been searching for her, and a few of them found a suspicious looking shed that was actually right off the highway that she was last seen on. And the shed had been previously used for a business, and coincidentally the owner of the shed actually brought up an incident to the police that kind of like left her feeling quite perplexed, and this occurred on February 15th, the day after Asha went missing. So the owner, she had been cleaning the shed, and she noticed some odd items that brought her mind to it because she was very confused. And so the woman, she actually found a Mickey Mouse hair bow, a marker, a pencil, and these were all items that she could not have put there herself because she didn't own any of those. And at first, the woman didn't really think anything of it. She was probably just like, oh, you know, maybe kids were hanging out here. But then she started listening to the television, and she heard the police talking about Asha's disappearance, and that's when she decided to call the police. So the police answered, and they quickly made their way over to where the shed was on the woman's property. And as they were searching around, they noticed a pile of candy wrappers. And this was candy wrappers that was given to Asha on Valentine's Day after her basketball game. So the police, they called for sniffer dogs to come and search the area. And the police concluded that Asha must have gone into the shed, and unfortunately, the dogs were unable to pick up Asha's scent. So the police then, they just concluded that this could have been due to the fact that there was a storm, you know, it wasn't able to pick up their scent because it was washed away by rain. And unfortunately, after the items were found in the shed, there just wasn't many other clues after this. And just 1 week later, the search party for Asha was called off because they couldn't find anything. And there was no evidence to say that she had gone anywhere other than what was found in the shed. So there was an unknown person from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children who actually started looking up studies and tests about how children normally don't run away until the age of 12. That's the average age of people who run away, like the children that run away. And this could be a really big clue here, because if Asha was out and about walking at 3 in the morning, someone actually may have spotted her, and they could have noticed that there wasn't a lot of cars around, you know, like she was by herself, this person was going down the road and there was nobody out, and decided it was like a perfect opportunity to snatch Asha and kidnap her, especially because there would be no witnesses. Now, of course, these are all just theories and speculations. None of this has ever been proved, but it is something to think about. So over the next few months, Asha's family, they went on national television. They publicly announced for little Asha to be returned to them. Now, Asha's family, they even started appearing on America's Most Wanted, and they were on the Oprah Winfrey Show as well. And a couple months later, the police actually found Asha's backpack that she had taken with her when she had ran away. And the backpack was nearly 26 miles away from where the truck driver last saw her. And what doesn't make any sense to me is if she was on a highway, how would she possibly have walked 26 miles within that time span, like an hour, 2 hours or whatever? And it was nighttime, you know, how would she have gotten there? How would she have known where she's going? How would she have made it that far? She's 9. She's not that tall. You know, kids can't walk that fast. It was just bizarre to me. So this backpack that I said was found 26 miles from where the truck driver last saw her was actually found by a home contractor. And he was searching the area to find a good place to build some homes. And while he was digging, he found a buried garbage bag. And in that garbage bag was another bag. So he opens up the second bag, and inside of that bag is Asha's backpack that had both Asia's name and her phone number on it. And this was only found 15 yards away from Highway 15. And this was where she was last seen at. So the contractor, he never even heard of the case of Asha Degree. So he begins to write down her name and her number because he found it really odd and suspicious. And he thought to himself he's going to talk to someone about it. And he had just had a gut feeling like this. Something was just really wrong. He just knew something was wrong. And he began to ask himself why anyone would put a full garbage bag inside of another empty garbage bag. And it was like someone was hoping it would be permanently buried, like someone would build a house over top of it. Well, the contractor kept thinking and just started thinking about how wrong everything about this just felt. Just so awkward and uncomfortable. And it upset him to the point where the next morning he's telling his wife about this. Like, he's like, look, I found this while I was, building a site for some homes, and it's really freaked me out. I just can't explain it. Do you understand what's going on? Now, his wife, actually, like, whenever he mentioned the name Asia was found on the backpack, she had actually heard of the Asha Degree case, and she told him immediately to call the police. And he did. So they called 911 to report his findings, and the search and rescue teams were called out to where he had found the backpack and everything, and nothing was found. So they felt like it was just a wasted effort. So the FBI, they came afterwards, and they took the bag that was Asia's, and they decided they were going to run any type of DNA tests on it to see if they could pick up any type of DNA samples. So, unfortunately, none of these have ever been released to the public. Nobody knows what the results were from the DNA test except for the police themselves, maybe Asia's parents, but it's not said to the public what it was. And they have this list of the items that were in the backpack, and that has also never been released to the public. So, unfortunately, because of all of this with the backpack, the police believe that there was foul play involved with Asia's disappearance, which I would say so too. And just ultimately, there's something just very wrong. So, in the year 2004, someone eventually called in a very interesting tip to the police. And this was enough information for the police to start an It's when you dig up a body, sorry. It's when you go and you dig up a body. Excavation of a body to see if there was a body there, because they felt like there was. So there was a rumor that the tip may have come from an inmate who was in the local jail, and they were saying that there was Asia's possible remains buried at the area where the backpack was, but nothing has ever been found. So in the year 2015, there's 15 years after she went missing, and the police and the FBI announced they were going to start to reopen the case. And it was done so in an effort to get it solved, because they just wanted to get peace for this family. So the police and the FBI, they started re-interviewing all the people that interviewed the first time. And they even increased the reward by $25,000, so that the total would be $45,000. And this was for any type of information regarding Asia's case. And nothing happened, and nobody came forward with any information about Asia. So in 2016, there was actually brand new information released about Asia's case. And this was the biggest piece of news that had come out since the discovery of Asia's backpack. So this was like top tier news. This could have been a break in the case. So this evidence and information, it came from a witness that had actually never been interviewed by the police prior to right now. So they had stated that he or she, it wasn't stated if it was a male or a female, that they recalled seeing a young girl that matched Asia's description getting into a green Thunderbird or a Mark IV. I'm not sure what type of vehicle. It's not certain which type of vehicle it was because both of them look extremely similar. But they do know it was green and it was like those type of styles of cars. So I personally was like, so after 17 years, this vehicle is just now being listed as a suspicious vehicle and a vehicle of interest. And I thought to myself, like, why did the witness wait 17 years to come forward with this information? Why didn't they say it back then, when it happened back in 2000? Like, why are you going to wait this long? Like, that's what I didn't understand. Maybe they were scared. I don't know. Maybe they didn't put two and two together. But, I don't know. It's very confusing to me. So, with this case, as always, there is a lot of theories about this case, and I've brought up some, but I want to talk to you more about the theories, and I want to know what your thoughts and opinions are on them as well. So, one of the first theories that I've heard about is that people believe that Asha may have been a sleepwalker, and was sleepwalking that night. And I mean, it's possible that she could have been a sleepwalker, because whenever that person pulled up to her and asked if she was okay, and she was like scared out of her mind when, like, she was calm walking, and then when she noticed him talking to her, she was like freaking out and bolted into the woods. It's possible if you wake up a sleepwalker, you know, that can happen. There's been people who have actually been sleepwalking before and have shown up to like bus depots and on airplanes, and they woke up and they had no idea how they got onto the bus, how they got onto the plane, and people have gone pretty far distances while being asleep. So it is a possibility. And it's possible, like I said, that he could have woken her up and she could have freaked out and took off running. And it was said by this witness that she was terrified out of her mind, bolted into the woods. So another theory is that Asha could have been sleepwalking, again, like this first theory, but instead of her being freaked out by someone, she was hit by a car and killed. So that's also possible because it was very dark outside and it would have been hard to see her, especially at night, because the lights were not all that bright and everything, and she wasn't wearing anything reflective, and it could have just been very difficult for them to see her. They could have hit her, killed her, and in an instant to cover up their crime, and they just panicked and they buried her body. That's a theory and a possibility. So the last thing I thought about whenever they were talking about the car incident, that she could have been hit by a car, is if someone was hit by a car, wouldn't there have been blood? Like, if you hit them hard enough, especially if you're on a highway and she was hit and killed, there would have been blood, but there was no blood on the highway, which I don't know if that could work with the theory, but I have no idea. So the last theory was that Asha was a runaway and left on her own terms, and this is still something that the police think about to this day. So one thing about the runaway theory is that the backpack was there, and the backpack is a huge clue. So it's a huge clue and a huge piece of evidence in this case, which meant that the backpack had been packed before she was prior leaving, which was done prior to her leaving, and it meant that this had been planned. She had been planning to run away. And it was said by her family that Asha had actually been reading a book that had to do with adventures. And I'm not all sure if Asha read this book for fun or if she read it for school, but she was said to have read a book about adventures. And it's a possibility that she read this book and she got excited and she wanted to experience an adventure for her own, but she didn't want to get in trouble, so she left in the middle of the night. But one thing that really confuses me is that Asha didn't like to leave her home alone because she was deathly afraid of dogs, thunderstorms, and the dark. So why would she have done that? Like, run away in the dark, you know what I mean? So a couple questions came to me while I was researching the case, and I will tell them all to you now. So first, I was like, why did Asha run away from home by herself in the dark, knowing that she is terrified of the dark and thunderstorms? Was there something that scared her more than the dark and thunderstorms that made her run away? And then the second thing that I thought about was this previously planned, this runaway previously planned, or was it just a spontaneous spur of the moment, let me just pack everything, get the hell out of the house type of thing? Third, I was like, why did she leave at 3 in the morning? Especially since she was terrified of the dark and it was storming. And I thought to myself, well, maybe she was leaving at 3 a.m. because maybe there was somebody who was going to meet her someplace. I don't know. And the fourth thing was that I asked about was, why was Asia's backpack like so far away from where she left? She left at her home and her backpack was found 26 miles away. I don't understand how that could have happened. So that in order for her backpack to have gone there, that means somebody would have had to pick her up and take her over there. So the fifth question I have, is it possible that Asia could have been sleepwalking? Now, I watched a TV show from the 1970s, and it had an episode based on the youngest child who was sleepwalking, and the child ended up walking from her house down a couple miles down the road to the carnival and was on a Ferris wheel and didn't know how she got there. And it's quite possible that Asia could have packed up her stuff and she could have left and didn't realize that she left. And I mean, in a way that like she made it out of the house with everything still locked. Maybe she went out, her window or something. And she could have just been walking down the street, still asleep and semi-conscious. And then when the guy pulled up to her and asked if she was okay, this could have startled her awake, and she scared herself and took off running into the woods. So my last question is, and this is a person that people have brought up before, is a man named Donald Ferguson involved in Asha Degree's case? So I'm going to get to the man. His name is Donald Ferguson, and he had a lot of crap in his life that he had done over the years that could have possibly made him a suspect. Like, it's disgusting, the type of shit that he did. So in January of 2014, this was 7 years ago, Donald, he was actually arrested and charged with the rape and murder of a 7-year-old girl named Shalonda Poole. Yes, Shalonda Poole, back in the year of 1990. And he was actually a friend of the Poole family, so he knew Shalonda, and she ended up trusting him, and he ended up kidnapping her, murdering her. And the worst part of the whole thing was that he was helping Shalonda's family search for her, knowing damn well he murdered her. That's a sick dude. That's disgusting. So at the time of Asha's disappearance, Donnie Ferguson, he was actually in North Carolina. So he was in the state. And Donald has this long and just god-awful criminal history that involved all these different types of crimes with children. I'm not going to list them there because some of them it's just so awful and triggering. I can't talk to you much about it. I only want to talk about the last one because it is related to Asha's case, like the similarities and everything. So turns out between the years of 1999 and 2000, Donnie was unaccounted for. Nobody knew where he was. And it was around that time, in the year 2000, that Asha went missing. And it turns out, again, that Asha was around the age of the type of girls that he liked. And when I say he liked, I mean he was like a full-blown pedophile. This dude was disgusting. And he just seemed to be like just attracted to children. A little gross. So people, they also believe that they have a family member that may have taken, like Asha's family may have, a family member of Asha's family that may have taken her. But I highly, highly doubt that because of how sheltered she was. Her mother would never, ever let someone be around her kids that she didn't like and she didn't trust. So even if it was a family member and she only allowed family members around the house, if she didn't like this family member, there's no way they would have been at the house. So another thing is that, like, why would Aquila, in the middle of the night, allow Asha to go with this family member? and then she not know about it. It doesn't make any sense. Someone would have told her. I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense. And at the end of my videos, I always like to add in my personal thoughts and opinions, and I definitely don't think that she just up and left and went home, like, just ran away. I definitely don't think that. I think there was something more to it. Especially since Asia was so sheltered, she wouldn't have just up and ran off. You know, there had to have been something more. Maybe she, you know, met someone at a school, you know, at a school function, and wanted to run away, and this person promised to take care of her or something. I'm not 100% sure, but she may have been trying to just run away and, you know, just go on an adventure like was in the book, and someone may have noticed her and thought, hey, let me just abduct this child, and she could have been killed, or she could have died from exposure to the elements because it was very cold that day, and someone buried her body and took her belongings with them so that they wouldn't have been made a suspect in the crime. And I don't know, I just have so many thoughts and opinions about this case. It's just wild. Nothing about this case makes sense. Nothing about it at all. Like, how did she leave the house if everything was locked up? That doesn't make any damn sense to me at all. So, this is stressing me out. This case stressed me out. So I would love to know your guys' thoughts, theories, and opinions down below in the comments section. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what type of cases you guys would like me to cover next. And hit that bell icon so you never miss a video, and it'll be notified whenever I post and upload. So thank you all for listening, and don't forget to watch my True Crime Tuesday videos on Tuesday and my Crimes of Their Times videos on Friday. And I'll catch you all in my next videos. Bye, guys.